Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of December 8th through the 14th of 2025. All right, so a lot going on astrologically this week. We have a lot of sign changes. In fact, all of the fast movers, Mercury, Venus, and Mars will be changing sign here today, and that's going to be this week, and that's going to be around Friday and Saturday. So definitely a shift of values with Venus, a shift of thinking, a shift of perspective, and with Mars, maybe a shift of desires and actions. So definitely a shifting week. Now, this is a week of now coming off of the full moon last Wednesday, and so this is about applying things from mid last week. So full moons are usually a time of getting some insights, and now the third quarter moon that we're in this week is about applying them and implementing them. So there should be a lot manifesting this week. We should see a lot of progress, and again, a lot of shifting of values, perspectives, and actions. So Mars is going to be squaring up to Saturn and Neptune as well. So there are some challenges to work with here. Early in the week with Saturn, some patience, some discipline, but that can be very constructive. Towards the end of the week, around Sunday, Mars squaring Neptune, maybe a little bit of uncertainty, needing to find a little more of a receptive and flowing approach to our actions in life. And Mars will be going over the galactic center on Tuesday. So it's definitely a transformation, a rebirth, maybe a death and rebirth in regards to that desire, action-oriented side to Mars. Okay, and outside of that, we have some Mercury aspects and, of course, that third quarter moon, which makes this a very manifesting week. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, December 8th. And as you can see here, we are using the actual size of the constellations, which is very different from mainstream astrology. In mainstream, you won't see the uneven actual sizes like this. You'll see all the signs are exactly 30 degrees. However, that's not how we see it in the sky. That's not how our ancestors created and observed the Zodiac. So you will notice the signs are different. For example, you might be expecting the sun and a lot of these fast movers to be in Sagittarius already this week. So if you notice sign changes and the signs are different, or we're mentioning new signs like Ophiuchus, definitely check out that link down below for more information. Okay, so since we have a lot going on this week, let's just do a quick recap. We had that full moon, which was last Wednesday, and so that's usually a time where we start to really gain some new perspectives on things and likely start to head off on a new journey for the month. So we've already done that since last week, and now this week is really about applying that. So anything that's about action, anything that's about implementation or manifesting, any new bits of awareness makes this a great week and likely the main theme of the week. And that'll be apexing around Thursday once the third quarter moon goes exact. Now, in terms of the placements, we have the Sun and Mars in healing Ophiuchus coming into the week. Like I said, Mars is going to go over that galactic center probably around Tuesday, but we're going to be feeling this as early as Monday. And it really is the death and rebirth of the chart, of the sky. It's the center of our Milky Way. It's the massive black hole that is all about transformation and going deep and then seeing what emerges out the other side. So here, Mars, the planet of our drives, our assertiveness, our desires, our goals, basically that ego, maybe masculine side, goes through that death and rebirth process. So early in the week, really allowing for that healing, really allowing for that deeper side to come up, see what emerges. It's a yin energy, so there's not so much to do with it as much as it's to facilitate the process, right? So it could be very spiritual. It's a great time to go inward, but I'd say fundamentally it's about non-attachment, right? Very similar to Pluto. So allowing for the death of the ego, allowing for the death of desires, maybe non-attached or non-attached to outcomes. These are all things that can really help facilitate this process. And as we'll see, as we then go through the week, as Mars emerges out of the galactic center, starts to go into Sagittarius, we have that post-transformation, more of the healed and rejuvenated energy that comes out from that. Now the sun will still be in Ophiuchus all week, of course. There's still a strong Ophiuchus energy, which is again the healer, so it's still going on, and Venus will be joining the mix around Friday as well. Mercury is in the balanced energies of Libra, so while things are very deep and very potentially healing at the moment, Mercury is still very much in the more surface level Libra. So Libra is about seeing what's fair. It's about, in relationships, mutuality. It's about bringing things back into balance, whether it's personally or interpersonally. And so we're thinking this way with Mercury, could be communicating this way with Mercury. So that's still going on there as well. But as you can see, definitely more on the deeper side of things. Okay, so that's coming into this week, again, coming off that full moon from last Wednesday. Now, starting here with Monday, this is where we start to really experience a lot of these squares with Mars. So Saturn and Neptune are close to each other in the sky, and now Mars is going to be squaring up to them both. So Mars is the planet of, again, drive and our egos, our desires. And early in the week with Saturn, Saturn's about the long-term view. So sometimes with this, we might see delays. We might see things that require one step forward, one step back. But these are all very constructive things. And it's really to make sure that our long-term views are aligned with our short-term views. And although oftentimes with Mars, we want to rush out of the gate, Saturn puts on the brakes. And for good reason. We want to cross those T's, dot those I's. We want to make sure that we're going through everything in a responsible, patient, and even persevering way. We need to build that strength of character and all those, characteristics about maturity and responsibility. So that's early in the week. That's definitely going to be the strongest energy there. We have the moon in Cancer. So anything that's about protection, caring, security, maybe connecting to our personal life a little bit or personal selves can be also good as a backdrop to that. Now, once we start to get into Tuesday, the moon will shift into Leo. And so for this whole middle part of the week until we get to Friday, hang on just a second here. We want to go here. We will be having that Leo energy. So Leo is more about self-expression. So Tuesday through Thursday, how can we connect more to our hearts? How can we have maybe some fun, maybe some playfulness, some creative energy? This is great for that, let's say, early to middle part of the week there. Now, with this, then we start to have some of the Mercury transits midweek, so around Wednesday and Thursday. Mercury is the planet of our communications and our minds, how we're thinking about things. And here, Mercury is part of what has been a kite formation. So nothing really new here, but I would say around Wednesday, maybe being open to change a little bit, being open to a little bit of spontaneity, being a little bit flexible. Uranus usually calls us to think outside the box and to approach things a little bit differently. So anything that's about a little more flexibility there can be great. Now, Mercury then gets the trine from Neptune on Thursday, a little more supportive, which deals with perhaps a receptive mind. Neptune is the spiritual planet, so our minds are in the ethers, and so we could be maybe dreaming a little bit, but that can be constructive. We can be maybe using our imagination, and it's always really good for spiritual development or any day-to-day activities that require a little bit more flow and, again, a little more receptivity. So anyways, midweek, the planet of our minds and communications getting active. Good to have a little bit of flexibility and at the same time a little bit of receptivity as well. Now, again, Thursday is when we have the third quarter exact. So here's the apex of those actions we're talking about. It's also when we're going to start to notice the things manifesting from a week ago during that full moon there. Okay, and Neptune is going direct here, so it's nothing major, but midweek we'll likely start to notice a little bit more of the spiritual dimensions moving forward a little bit. Again, Neptune, the planet of spirituality, of our imagination, of our intuition, and really just mental health and spiritual health slowly starts to move forward. So this is not going to be really felt personally unless you have Neptune very strong in your chart. But this week, just see it as a great week where things can start to move forward a little bit in that department of of soul health and spiritual health. Now, once we get to Friday, we have those sign changes, all right? So we talked about these already, but we've got these shifts here. So Mars, again, coming out of the galactic center, going into more expansive, free-spirited Sagittarius. That's going to be for the next really almost a few months, at least a couple months here, of more of that open-mindedness and post-transformation. We can think of this as the sort of butterfly emerging out of the cocoon of that healer energy. And so free-spirited, adventurous, open-mindedness, these will all be great characteristics for that assertive, drive, masculine side of ourselves there. Now, this is also where Venus will go into Ophiuchus. So again, we still have that Ophiuchus energy. Nothing has changed there. Nothing's different. But we're starting to likely value some of that healer energy a little bit more, and probably more of that coming through in our relationships. Again, this one will be a couple weeks almost, and so there's still plenty of time here for some of this deeper diving. And not to mention Mercury will be joining the mix shortly. But Mercury will be going into Scorpio here around the same time, a little closer to Saturday, and that just adds to the depth there. But what that really signifies is that we'll be done with the Libra energy with the fast-moving planets. And so with less Libra, probably less thinking about so much of the balance or relational or mutual or moral kind of stuff that we've been thinking about there. And then we just have more of an exclusive energy around that deeper dimension. Again, thinking deeper, great for research when Mercury's here and uncovering that deeper world, which can help us do some of that healing and personal transformation that, again, is still very much in the mix there. Okay, Mercury will be sextiling Neptune during that, so that's nice to see that there's a little bit of, sextiling Pluto. So there's a little bit of support there from that deeper energy, nothing major. But the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday has Virgo energy. So Virgo is all about the structure. And so a good weekend for some self-discipline in the sense of building some good habits maybe doing our work or service, whatever that might be, taking care of daily responsibilities, and just improvement in general. What are some things that can be improved? That's going to be a weekend of that. And then lastly, we have that Mars squaring up to Neptune. That's the last of those squares with Mars and Saturn, Neptune. So this will be on Sunday. Now here, that again, fiery side of Mars is being challenged by spiritual Neptune. So how can we go with the flow a little bit? Again, Mars usually wants to rush out of the gate, but here we might be uncertain. We might even have a little bit of a lower confidence. We might be maybe feeling unsure. So aligning to our soul gives us that guidance. Aligning to the flows of life gives us that guidance. Prioritizing our mental health and spiritual health also makes things easier to take those actions. So a challenge there to link up the ego with the spiritual, or the fire with the water. And this can be a great weekends, very constructive for applying these kinds of things into our life. All right, so that's a mouthful. There's a lot going on this week, as you can see. Let me go ahead and distill this down to its most essential forms. This is an action week, being in the third quarter moon, which is apexing on Thursday. That's where we'll start to see things manifesting from the shifts of last week or from the insights of last week. We have a couple squares to work with, one on Monday, one on Sunday, both involving fiery Mars. So, and with Mars over the galactic center, I would say all week it's really good to be really connecting to that fiery side, but in a personal development way. On Monday, with a little bit of that patience. On Tuesday, or around Tuesday, a willingness to be non-attached and have a bit of an ego death, if you will. Okay, we do this every 2.5 years with Mars. And with Sunday, receptivity, right? Aligning that fire with that water. So those are some of the challenges, I would say the main challenges there of the week. All in all, it shouldn't be too much of a challenging week. Usually third quarter moons, we're more willing to take these actions. We're more willing to do growth. It could just be a very active week for most of us. Mercury's got a little bit going on, nothing major. Just good to be a little flexible here this middle part of the week with Mercury opposite Uranus, but we should be noticing a little bit of flow in general, with the day-to-day probably in the middle part of the week. Now, Neptune's going direct, so again, really good to start to prioritize a little bit of this mental health and spiritual health stuff moving forward. And then the shifts, right? So Friday, we'll just say, around Friday, we have 3 planets changing signs. We have Mars into Ophiuchus, we have Mars into Sag, Venus into Ophiuchus, Mercury into Scorpio. What does that mean? A shift of perspectives. Mars, a shift of desires, likely into more of the adventurous, the open-mindedness, the free-spirited, while things still being very deep. Venus going into Ophiuchus, still healing, maybe healing through relationships coming up a little bit. And then Mercury going into Scorpio, a deeper mind that can be utilized, and even deeper communications that can be utilized as well. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. There won't be a live stream here this Sunday, but we will be, of course, continuing that next Sunday. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. If you're not part of the MTZ Insiders newsletter, definitely subscribe for that. There's a link down below. It's absolutely free. You get videos like this, extra content, and of course, you get connected with the community through that newsletter. It's, again, free. No reason not to sign up. There's a link down below, and it's a great way of supporting the channel. But have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.